I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being here. If you could do me a favor, we are trying to grow the channel here. So I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Also hit the bell so you are sure to get those notifications. I'd love it if you could hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the stream or videos in the YouTube algorithm. So that would be great. We are going to check in on the Nancy Guthrie case tonight. Of course, Nancy Guthrie has been missing now for more than 40 days. Her daughter, Savannah Guthrie, the host of the Today Show, or the co-host of the Today Show, has said her mother was taken from her bed. It's a terrifying, terrifying story, a terrifying case. Who would do this? Why would anybody do this? Well, guess what? The Sheriff Nanos, this week, the guy who's in charge of this investigation, says now he thinks he knows why, although he's not sure. But he thinks he knows why. They think they know why he did this. The guy who I call Mustache here, which I'm still not convinced it's not more than one person. So I thought we should bring on somebody who's been following this case to talk about this, somebody who's been following it very closely as I have been. And we're going to talk about all of the developments from this week. And I have a lot of good things to talk to you about, a lot of new developments, even though they're not major developments like an arrest or anything like that. But I want to bring in Chris McDonough, the host of The Interview Room, he on YouTube, and he's also a retired homicide detective. Everybody say hi to Chris, and everybody be kind to our guest and polite. He has a lot of great insight, and also he is with the Cold Case Foundation, so they help solve cold cases. So Chris, thanks for coming back on. I know you've been following this closely as I have been, and you know, everybody wants an answer quickly. We know that doesn't always happen. But this one's kind of frustrating because we know that there were some things done right in the beginning of this case, but also some things that were done wrong.
Yeah. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, Angenette. And then, of course, hi to your chat. And then, so, yeah, what do you think? I mean, there's just, this is one of those situations where you just have to have a clarity of focus, and then you have to stay within that focus, whatever that means. And 90% of all crimes that get solved are usually solved typically within that first couple of days, 3-4 days, meaning you know what direction the investigation is going to take you. And I think there were a couple of curveballs that have been thrown onto this thing that has caused, you know, two things to happen. Number one, a lot of noise, you know, from the outside into the investigation, which can distract investigators. They go down a lot of rabbit holes. And then secondarily, you have this communication disconnect, not only with the public, but within the department. Where, you know, even the two major agencies that are investigating this, the FBI and the Pima County Sheriff's Office, whenever you start to hear rumbling with inside of an agency toward, you know, complaining about the top, which in this case, there has been a lot of that, that tells you that there isn't a clarity of focus in relationship to not only the leadership, but potentially the direction. And that's why we're getting all this mixed messaging.
Yeah, there's been a lot of noise, if you will, from the outside.
Right.
And obviously there's some friction between the sheriff's office, and it may not be really the boots on the ground people doing the work, the detectives. It's Sheriff Nanos and his command staff, like his probably number 2, number 3, number 4, like whatever, his people. And the feds, because yes, he has jurisdiction. It's a Pima County case, but the feds were, you know, the feds, I guess he's saying they offered assistance. Savannah Guthrie, we know, you know, Trump called her and she probably was like, yeah, like, come on, send the feds in or whatever. But, you know, the feds, their expertise is in kidnappings, and there were ransom notes coming in. And so they send in, hostage or negotiators, BAU type people to look at these notes and try to help craft the message in those videos that they were posting on Instagram, speaking to the kidnapper. If those were even real? We don't even know if they were now. We still don't know, but who knows if they were. And so, the FBI does have expertise in this area. And so I'm sure someday we will hear about all of the friction behind the scenes, but a lot of it's been playing out in front of our eyes, because obviously I think the feds, probably think Sheriff Nanos is a goober. I mean, that's kind of like what I'm thinking they probably think, but he's not going to let go. He's not going to let go of the case. He brought homicide detectives in the first day to process. He brought the crime scene unit in to process the scene because he said he saw things that really concerned him. So he still has jurisdiction because obviously there's no, as you say, federal nexus yet that we know of. We don't know.
Right.
We don't know if Nancy crossed state lines or anything like that.
Yeah, and that's the key, right? That's where I think everybody needs to step back for a moment, and just let's think about this, in reality right now taking place in the United States. There are kidnappings taking place as we sit here and talk about Nancy Guthrie. Right now in the United States, the FBI is not responding to every single kidnapping as experts in how to solve kidnapping. Mm-hmm. Those are given, or they remain in that agency. I mean, in Southern California, where I worked, we had kidnappings all the time. Okay? Now, if it's a bank robbery, or if it's a bank or somebody like that, there's federal jurisdiction, the FBI takes over immediately. That's their problem. You give it to them. You say, have a good day. Enjoy it. Okay. But if there's an 85-year-old woman who's taken out of a house in a local jurisdiction, that belongs to the local jurisdiction. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And the FBI plays a support role. They bring in the resources that you're talking about, the BAU to help craft the letters, and all this other stuff. The reason they got involved is because there was a question in relationship to this Bitcoin, ransom note. Mm-hmm. That could be interstate, federal transaction violations of those types of laws. And yes, that's when the FBI can really step in and say, look, we're going to go ahead and take this because we believe we can prove the nexus, just mm-hmm. like they did with the guy in LA. They took him down just like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. But you notice they're not taking the point here. They assign four detectives and a supervisor, a sergeant, to the task force that was created and now is housed at the headquarters downtown Phoenix. Okay, they created a war room is what they did. They took it from a command center out in the field, which is typically, a motorhome, a bus, or something like that, where everybody can see everything that's happening, and usually have a dispatcher there too as well. So you have everybody in a central command center, and they call it a CENTCOM. Mm-hmm. And then what they did is they just moved that. Mm-hmm. They just moved it back into, the Phoenix area. And the sad part to that is, to your point, you have the sheriff, the undersheriff, and a captain from Pima County Sheriff's Department who are running day-to-day operations, with people, still getting shot and still getting hurt there in Pima County. They still have to run a jail, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. But they've got their nose too far into this now created task force and not letting their own staff run it. Mm-hmm. And so you get mixed messaging. Give you a perfect example. Who put the video and the two pictures out first in this case?
The FBI.
It was Kash Patel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And then who ran to the gun stores and said, hey, here's 40 pictures of some people? It was the FBI. And what did the sheriff say? How did he respond to both of those? The sheriff was like, no, they're not out.
That's not true.
Yeah, they're not out there doing that. Okay.
Right.
So, who's on first?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the question. And these are the kind of things where, this whole thing from the get-go should have run like this. Okay. And I speak from experience. I've been part of many high profile cases in this country. Okay. Mm-hmm. Some involving children, most of them involving children. Okay. I have walked out of crime scenes with literally 16, 17 satellite trucks out in front. Okay. The investigation I did with Matthew Checky started the family restroom movement in the United States. I was on the Oprah Winfrey show way back in the day to talk about child safety. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, that case was huge. Okay. Back in the day, it was huge. Okay. Guess what? Our chief, not one time, was at the podium talking about it. It was our public information officer and my boss, a lieutenant at that time. Okay. And we controlled the flow of the information here. What happened in this situation, that chief couldn't get before the cameras fast enough. Yeah. Sure. And that sheriff, he couldn't get to the cameras fast enough. And that started the miscommunication, the misdirection, and a lot of information that the FBI, quite frankly, is trying to clean up, and the detectives on the ground from the Pima County Sheriff's Department. Those guys are all getting along great. They're like this. Yeah. Okay. They're holding hands and singing Kumbaya, and they just want to find Nancy Guthrie and find out who did this. Okay. Right. But there's jockeying up here that's going on. Okay. And this mixed messaging is, again, what's confusing here, because the very first night they responded to this case, it was just a report of a missing woman. Mm-hmm. Okay. The first deputy that got on scene, no question about it, contacted the family. The family says, look, here's what happened. This is where the story starts to develop. And they shut it down right away. Okay. But then the sheriff gets there, and 11, film at 11, as we used to call it. Okay. He's standing there at 10:45. Journalists got to do a job. There's like 4 or 5 journalists out there, only a few, they're local, and they start hitting him up. And they ask the big question, is this Nancy Guthrie, and is this Savannah Guthrie's daughter or mom? And he goes, yes. Well, that started a cascade of, holy crap in instant messaging around the world. And now this is an international event where if a guy delivers pizza to the front door, it makes the Twitter page. Yeah. Okay. Which is insane. Exactly. Well, and so who's lost in all of this, right? Nancy's lost in all of this. Yeah. So what we do, and what I've been trained to do, because I'm old school, we didn't have social media when I was solving crimes, and still solving them today. Okay. You slow down, you compress, and that's exactly what they've done. They've retreated into a war room inside of the FBI headquarters. Now they have immediate access to all of the digital footprint, to all the video footprint, to all of the cast team, to all of the evidence. Whatever they're going to need is right there, except one-off. And that one-off is the stuff that the sheriff sent out to a lab that he's been using, forever, which is an accredited lab in Florida. It's a good DNA lab. And now they have this, mixed DNA that they're trying to separate and possibly identify who the perpetrator is.
I want to go back to the beginning of this week, because, well, it's not really the beginning of the week. Later in the week, Sheriff Nanos came out, and we're going to get to some of the chat comments here in a second. But Sheriff Nanos came out, and he did an interview with he did one with NBC News, and he did one with a local Tucson station. And I'm going to play a snippet of this from NBC News, because when I saw this pop up on NBC News, I thought to myself, Wow, I didn't think you were doing interviews anymore. Every time they put out a tweet saying he's not doing interviews anymore, like 3 days later he pops up and he's doing an interview, which I'm like, dude, stop. Like, I don't know if he's doing them with NBC because Savannah, like maybe he's calling Savannah Guthrie and she's like, do a news story with us. Like maybe she wants that. Like maybe she's like thinking as a news person and she's like, this is my mom and the story is dying. I want it out there. Go do an interview. Like maybe she's like pushing him to do this. I don't know that, but I'm wondering that because she wants her mom's story out in the news, right? I mean,
Sure.
So maybe she's like, talk to Liz Kreutz. Go do an interview with Liz Kreutz, please, Sheriff Nanos. Like, get out there. So I'm going to play what he told Sheriff Nanos. May have to snip this out later if the YouTube people, get on me about showing you this, which I'm going to argue fair use, but whatever. But we're going to show this to you real quick and then show you the other interview. Let's see. Here we go. Back it up a second.
Do you think that this suspect could strike again, whoever did this?
Well, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, criminal minds are criminal minds.
Well, he didn't disclose it. The sheriff says investigators do have a theory for a motive.
We believe we know why he did this, and we believe that it was targeted, but we're not 100% sure of that. And so it'd be silly to tell people, yeah, don't worry about it. You're not his target. No, you could be.
I mean, I'm like, what? You think it's targeted, but we don't know that. And so he might strike again. First of all, he's saying maybe this was a one-person job. I tend to think it was probably a two-person job. I could be totally wrong about that. But he's saying because we do have Mr. Mustache here. So he's saying we think it's targeted, but we don't know that. But we think we know why he did it, but I'm not going to tell you why. So I'm like, oh my God, what? So is there a burglar on the loose? Is there a kidnapper who kidnapped Nancy and thought they'd make a buck off Savannah and it went awry? Is this somebody, is it a sexual predator potentially who is this, any sexual predator is a sicko, but targeting a poor, vulnerable old woman? Like, what on earth was that? That was like semi word salad. I mean, it may have been word salad, but like it was a little less word salad than usual.
Yeah. And this is the confusing part always whenever, open mouth, insert foot. It is nonstop with Sheriff Nanos here. And I mean, just think about this, that how many senior citizens right now in the United States, but they're in Pima County, who are now listening to that. It's almost like back in the 60s when the Boston Strangler was running around. Imagine the police chief coming out and saying, hey, by the way, you're next. Okay, so lock your doors, lock your windows, get whatever you need to do, but by golly, you could be the next victim here. Okay. No, those are the types of statements that shake a community.
Right.
And every senior citizen in that community, he just said, well, when he was asked, should they be worried? He said, yeah, you should be. Which one is it? Do you know who it is or do you not know who it is? But don't go out there and start throwing this word salad into the community because it's very dangerous.
Yeah. He's like, we think we know why he did this. What? Then say it. Because, okay, if there's a burglar on the loose, then tell people there's like burglar. You think there's a crazy, or look what Koberger was studying sexual burglary. Is this a sexual burglar?
No.
Is it a sexual burglar?
It could be. It absolutely could be. He could be at the top of the ring.
There's a sexual burglar on the loose, possibly preying on people at night, carrying around a knapsack with a kit of sorts, possibly to tie up somebody and kidnap them, abduct them for the purpose of sexually assaulting them. Like if that's a possibility, because you gave us no information other than we think we know why he did this. We're not going to tell you, but yeah, like but be concerned. Like, how about you like say we should always be vigilant and always be careful and cautious and lock our doors. Like that's just like what everybody should be doing anyway. And Nancy Guthrie probably did have her doors locked.
Well, and he's not made that evidence clear yet to the community. But if we just put that, if you go back, right, when this thing first happened, that is always one of the things that you have to consider. The only reason I'm going to lean away from that and I'm an 80-20 away. Okay. I would always keep a 20% on there that it was SA related. Okay. Because you just don't know until you talk to the suspect themselves. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the reason I would lean away from that is a couple of things. Again, we go back to the victim risk continuum: environment, situation, circumstance, low, medium, high. Everything in this case is a very low risk victim. So that victimology then becomes critical. Well, simultaneously, the suspectology becomes critical. What kind of suspect would take a high risk to go into this house at all of these different times, potentially come back at, different times, do all of this stalking behavior for a gradual, charge in relationship to, sexual behavior. Okay. Because remember, everything is about the fantasy for these guys. Okay. So they envision how it's all going to go. And they have these, these expectations of, if she does this, then I do this. If she does this, I do this. And it's like putting bricks on the fantasy, and then the assault itself takes place. Okay. The biggest risk to the suspect in this case, from my observation, is the fact that she's gone. Okay.
Right.
If in fact he had assaulted her in that house, okay, and it was such a high risk to take her out of that house, then he probably wouldn't have done it in the house, number one. He probably would have just taken her and, unfortunately, taken her life, okay, and left her in the house. Mm-hmm. That would have actually lowered his risk. Okay? But the fact that the victim is out of the house, well, now he's got to transport the victim. That's a high risk, because now you're contaminating another car or vehicles, whatever it's going to be, that get her out of there. Well, that's a really risky for the suspect. And and then the second piece of that is now you have to manage her. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. We forgot all of her medications. We forgot her pacemaker. We forgot all of this other stuff. And that, again, you just keep doing the math on these. And this is where it keeps going. It goes, how much risk is a suspect willing to take? Well, he tried to lower his risk by the time that he chose to strike. Mm-hmm. That was lowering his risk. He tried to lower his risk by trying to conceal himself with all the clothing. Okay. He tried to lower the risk by dismembering or tearing apart all of the camera systems within the house, if in fact that's what we find out, the sheriff is finding out what happened. So why then, if he's trying to do this down here, why is he going to raise his risk and take her out of there? Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, that's when you start looking at how he did it, and you start looking at the suspect as a whole, and you get him on the porch. Okay. That video.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's all right. I'm listening.
Well, I wanted to show the next interview that he did this week, Sheriff Nanos. This is the second one, where he talked to a local Tucson station, KVOA, and this was where he's basically saying, lock up your daughters and wives and grandparents. Like, that's not what he said, but it's like the vibe I got. So let's look at this, and then we'll talk about the latest happenings as well.
Okay.
So let's look at this.
for those in the community worried about their safety because the suspect has not been arrested, what is your message to them?
My message is to everybody, putting this case aside. If, you know, I understand we live in a beautiful area and nice clean air and people like to have their windows open at night. I would tell you, because I'm just a cop, don't do that. Lock your windows, lock your doors. If you've got a security system, you know, I've learned from this. I have a security system too. Make sure you've got that recording that's not just recording itself over and over and over again. A subscription, maybe a cloud server. I don't know, but I'm saying take a look at your security system.
There was another clip I saw, and maybe it was with her, maybe it was with somebody else, where he was saying this person could strike again. Maybe it was with NBC, but he literally said this person could strike again. So what kind of crime would that suggest to you, Chris?
Well, burglars don't strike again and not steal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Everything inside of Miss Guthrie's house that we're aware of, that they've said, the authorities have said, is still there, except Miss Guthrie. Okay. So now if we have a serial kidnapper, which there's never been in my 40 something years in this business I've ever heard of, where, you know, they're kidnapping old people out of their houses nowadays. No, there are, I know of cases where, you know, elderly have been murdered in their homes, okay, after being SA'd, okay? And those are the kind of things that, yeah, that happens. And it happens, you know, not quite frequently, but that's why this thing is such an anomaly. The fact that she was taken out of her home, that shows a personalization back to the suspect, okay? Because again, we go back to that risk continuum of what the suspect was thinking. Why, you know, and if we look at that video again, let's just take a look at that video one more time, Angenette, just for a second, of the guy on the porch, okay, and just freeze him walking up to the porch. Okay?
Let's see. Here we go.
Okay, just freeze him right there.
Oh,
whoop, that's all right. No, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. First of all, if we think about this individual, okay, whatever the time frame is, right? We don't know exactly because the sheriff hasn't released the metadata. Okay. What everybody's been focusing on is the light, the clothing, and all of this other stuff. Okay, but from a behavioral analysis aspect, when you look at this guy's more concerned with his style. You know, what's his style of approach to this porch? Okay, his head is down. Okay, his head comes back up. But then you start looking at the type of mask that this individual has chosen. Okay, what feature does that mask actually enhance when you see it on camera? Okay, it enhances his eyes. Okay, well, there you go. What kind of criminal chooses a almost designer ski mask to enhance his appearance? Okay. And so then you start thinking about, okay, well, why didn't he just choose a different type of mask? Okay. Look at Brian Koberger. He picked a mask that went up to here that was just his eyes. Okay. But this guy's enhancing his mouth. That's a risk. That's a risk. He's enhancing his eyes. That's a risk. But what kind of item did he choose to do that? Well, it's a specially stitched type of ski mask. Okay. Well, is that a professional choosing this kind of mask?
Probably not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what a professional kidnapper would wear, honestly.
Well, what about a professional burglar?
Probably all black.
Oh, okay. A professional burglar would have walked up to that porch in the split second, would have reached up, saw that camera, and tore it off of that wall and thrown it down on the ground and smashed it. Okay. It would have been disintegrated within a second. But not this guy. This guy's trying to figure out, oh, wait a minute. I'll try to cover it with my hand. And then, no, wait a minute. I'll just look around to see if I can see something. Okay. Wait, over here, look at this. There appears to be some weeds. I'll just cover it with weeds. Okay. And now that started into the digital atmosphere. Well, some cameras you can discombobulate with weeds and all this other stuff. We're talking about the suspect here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's almost as if, too much information is the exact type of information an amateur gives here. And so this guy is concerned with his grooming, in my opinion. Okay. And the type of clothing and the type of mask that he chose, okay, puts him in a different category. Okay. It puts him into this not professional category, but somebody that is just kind of, hey, what do you think we should do? Mm-hmm. Concept. And that really narrows down your suspect pool here. And so when you start thinking about that, and then you start putting it to the sheriff, who's now telling the community, hey, you're at risk. Okay. And you remember he said, well, we found, we've got a glove. Yeah, we went and recovered a glove and we sent it out for DNA. And, the world was on edge. Oh, man, we're going to get some DNA on the glove. Okay. Well, meanwhile, you found out that the searchers were actually taking their gloves off and throwing them, which was not uncommon. Okay. It's not uncommon to see that. Okay. But then you have inside of the house early on him saying, well, we may have something that we can send to CODIS, some other DNA. And I think we talked about this the last time I was on your program. Okay. But look at this guy. These are almost, it's almost like, he's more concerned about how I look versus what I do.
It's weird that he's not wearing all black. I do want to hit on something else that came out this week. And one of our viewers mentioned this. From a tech perspective, it's great news that recent still images were recovered. It means there may be future recoveries that will help solve the case. But ABC News, that was leaked out to ABC News. I'm assuming the FBI, they put stuff out for a reason. But it sounded like they didn't get anything useful from what the reporting was, that ABC was saying there were thumbnails recovered from other cameras at the home, but they were prior to the event and they were from the back of the house and other areas of the house. What do you think of that, Chris? Do you think that that's 100% accurate, or do you think that the FBI strategically leaked that info out to ABC News for a reason? To maybe, are they watching somebody and looking to see how they react?
No, they're not leaking to get a reaction out of the suspect. That would be like really not a good thing. Okay. If you want a reaction out of the suspect, you go to the podium and you put it up on boards like we did in the Michael Vaughn case. Mm-hmm. And we said, these 4 people, we're looking at them and we're coming. Okay. That's what they should do here. If they have somebody of interest, you really want to get the public to go, hey, I just saw that guy's photograph. Yeah. I got to tell you, the night this thing happened, he was in my pizza shop. Okay. Or he was over here. He was over there. That's how you do it. You don't strategically leak it to one news agency. Okay. That's actually a problem in this case. And I agree with Jason 1,000%. If they have, let's say, that camera on the roof in the back of the house that they missed the very first time, and the FBI evidence team went up on the roof and got it, that could have a SIMS card in it. And that could have some type of, Wi-Fi that could be saved on a cloud somewhere or on a server where they're now pulling those digital images off of it. Okay? And that's going to now kick in this idea of, okay, well, how'd the suspect get in? If the back door was left wide open, do they have him going in the house? Do they have him making forced entry into the house? Or is that a scam? We don't know yet. Nobody's told us other than the door was left wide open. What does that mean? The door was left wide open. Is there a suggestion that the suspect left it open or Miss Guthrie left it open? I'm not sure yet. And go ahead.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because the sheriff said, it's beautiful here. People like to leave their windows open at night. I wouldn't do that. So maybe, did she leave it open? Because there was a lot of attention paid to that back slider.
Yeah. And there was, there's two blue doors in the back of the house, right? There's the one on the underneath the patio, and then the far end of the house through the pool is where the back slider is, potentially through the living room and maybe into her bedroom. I'm not exactly sure of the layout of the house. I've seen a footprint of it, but I don't know if in fact that is legit.
An image, a back house, right?
Yeah.
Now.
But that would have been the most logical place, right, for the suspect just to hop over that little pony wall and go into the house. I think that information came from, the first family members at the house that morning when the cops were called and the first deputy on the scene. And they had to have told them, hey, that we found this door open, and mom's missing, right? So underneath that patio is one other blue door like that garage door to the left. Okay, looking at it, I'm facing it, so it's to my left. There's a similar door to the right of that, and that's the only other two entrances into the back of the house that I can see. And then on the other side, to the far right there, it takes you around to that little L in the upper right-hand corner of the house that's cut away up there. That's the patio to where Nancy used to sit and write in her journal. She comes out on the patio and writes in her journal up there. Well, that has a slider up there as well.
Interesting. Let's talk about Annie and Tommaso's car. There's been some reporting today because the car. So the timeline was that, Nancy went to Annie and Tommaso's house. Annie's her daughter, her oldest daughter, Savannah's older sister, and Tommaso is her husband. Went to their house on Saturday night for a dinner. She took the Uber. She was taken home. The garage door opened. It closed 2 minutes later, and she was dropped off at the house. Annie and Tommaso's vehicle was taken. It was seized. I don't know if it was seized or if it was a consent search. I should be careful about that, but it was taken into evidence. It was examined. There were reports that it was taken apart possibly, but it was examined for evidence. And now JLR Investigates is reporting, and you had some reporting on this, that it was actually the vehicle had not been returned despite other vehicles that had been taken as part of the investigation being returned. That you had some contact with the sheriff's office where they said it was like a body shop, or you talked to the body shop, right? But now they're saying, JLR saying the car's been returned. So tell me what you learned about the vehicle.
So as of yesterday, the vehicle was at a body shop called Watson Chevrolet in Tucson. Okay. I have a source inside the sheriff's department that said the vehicle was seized right away. There was actually a warrant executed on the car. It was held for, if it's back today, then it's held for 42 days. And then it's been released to the family. Okay, back to the family. Okay. The vehicle itself was searched. I don't know what was found personally. Okay. However, it was towed. It was listed as an item of evidence. It was put into the chain of custody. Whoever did this crime, the defense, the first question they're going to ask the detective who made the decision to tow that vehicle, why did you tow the daughter's car? That will be a line of questioning. Okay. Any attorney knows that. Any good investigator knows that's going to come up. And then that answer is going to come out. I will predict before that happens, some news agency will get hold of the affidavit and the lawyers will go to town, because if it's sealed, they're going to argue that, well, the public has a right to know, and a wall of lawyers from the mainstream media is going to petition the court to release the information around that affidavit. The only pushback will be it's an ongoing investigation. Okay. However, if this case goes cold and it starts to sit and no progress is made, that strengthens the mainstream media's argument. And typically courts, as you know, being a professional journalist for as long as you have, typically the courts will come in and say, the state needs to provide why I should not release this information. Because it's one thing being, exigent circumstances, hot and heavy, we're moving ahead. And it's another thing, this thing is ice cold and we're putting these cubes inside of our glasses of water and drinking it. Okay. The courts have a standard that they have to balance. So if in fact this is their car, which I hope it is. Okay,
yeah. I mean, this is what one person is reporting. I should reiterate that.
Great. Then we have to
we haven't confirmed this. So
right. So then the question then will become for the sheriff by any journalist, why did you hold it for 42 days? That will be the question. If a journalist doesn't ask that question, they're not doing their job. Okay. Because give me one case in the United States where you towed the daughter's car of the kidnap victim.
I mean, I can't recall any of we don't have any high profile kidnappings. So you know what I mean? We just don't have that many where an older woman is kidnapped like this, Right.
So let's go back to Investigations 101. Probable cause. What do you need to say to the family? Hey, I'm sorry, we have to impound your car. Okay. The family's going to say, why? And you're going to say, whatever that probable cause is. Well, the reason I have to impound your car is your mom was last seen in that vehicle, according to your statement, at so-and-so, such and such last night. Okay?
And now she's missing.
And now she's missing. You can understand. We just want to make sure that we're checking the boxes, okay? And we're crossing the T's. Can you help us? Absolutely. Whatever you need, take the car. Okay, we're going to do that. Okay? The tow truck's called. The car's towed up. Okay? You notice they didn't get in it and drive it to the sheriff's department. Because if they cross-contaminate something, okay, now guess what the defense is going to say? Well, you knew there was no evidence in there because you got in it and drive it to the sheriff's department, didn't you? Well, yeah, I did, right? That mistake didn't happen. Right, but we saw it up on a tow truck, okay? Car number one, Annie's car. Car number two, it's obvious, Nancy's car. It's in her garage. She's missing. Okay, back the tow truck up, pull it forward. The Subaru goes into evidence. And guess what? It's still sitting there. Okay, at least it should be. And if the sheriff released that one, that's a problem. Okay, because we don't know what the suspect's going to tell you in an interview. We don't know if the suspect says, yeah, I was trying to get her into the garage and I was going to steal her car too. So I had her sit in her car and she was bleeding. But then I saw that wasn't going to work, so I figured I'd take her out the front door. Okay. So these are the kind of things where you don't make those mistakes. You impound the vehicle, And that way, when you're talking to the suspect and he actually tells you or she tells you how it happened, now you can go back and say, holy cow, do we have the car? Yeah, we have the car, like the aha moment. And the sheriff just went through this when he said, okay, tear the tape down, shut the house, give the house back. And then what happened? The FBI came in and said, well, wait a minute, we'd like to search that area. Oh, yeah, let's get consent again from this family, or let's get another warrant, a rollback warrant to go back into that house. Okay. You see how that's an aha moment. That's what I mean by an aha moment. And what do they find? They find that camera up on the roof. Okay. Well, let's play this out. What if that camera is the source of these new pictures? Guess what the defense is going to do? Your Honor, that's fruit of the poisonous tree. And we're going to argue that all day long. They could have the suspect in there going like this. Okay. Giving a thumbs up. Hey, okay. Clear as day. And a defense attorney is going to argue that's not my client. And if it was my client, that evidence was obtained illegally. We're going to suppress it. Mm-hmm. That will be the arguments. That's another aha moment. So if this car is in play in any way, shape, or form for 41 days, the sheriff's department, the FBI, and the lead detectives have to explain why that was the case for 41 days. Mm-hmm. That's why. That's what they'll have to do.
I want to talk now about something that Nancy Grace put out earlier this week, too. She said that for 2 days this week, the FBI agents were at El Charro restaurant. And that is the restaurant where Savannah had been with her mom and her sister filming that Today Show segment. And this is the segment that has gotten a lot of attention, the Savannah's homecoming segment that aired back in November. And apparently there had been a lot of publicity surrounding this. People knew at the restaurant that they were coming for a while. And Nancy Grace reported that the FBI was there for a couple of days this week talking to employees of El Charro restaurant. El Charro restaurant is apparently a very popular restaurant in Tucson. I think the Guthries go there pretty frequently. And so this was going to be a big deal that Savannah was coming there to film. And this is like part of the homecoming segment. And let me fast forward to the part where, Savannah's going all over Tucson. They go to her like old sorority. She's walking around, the university where she went to college, doing the rah-rah stuff with the girls at the sorority. They do TikTok stuff now or something. They were talking about doing a TikTok dance or something like that. And now here they are at El Charro, and they're there with this restaurant owner, and people were watching and hanging out, and so this is the restaurant. I'm assuming that's the restaurant owner. And the restaurant actually posted about this on their Instagram page. And so you've got Savannah there. You've got Nancy. There's Nancy's cell phone is on the table right there, that green cell phone. And she's talking to her mom at the restaurant, and they're just having a really good time eating Mexican food. But they actually posted about this on their Instagram. I'm going to pull up that video. I downloaded it. And they were very excited that she had been there to film this segment. So there's Savannah. She's getting a little Tucson bag. She's hanging out with that lady that was in the segment. So they advertised that Savannah had been there with her mom. And this video is still up on their social media, of course.
Okay.
So Nancy Grace says the FBI was there this week for 2 whole days, grilling employees about, hey, did family members, were there any fans like being too weird with Savannah? Were there did you tell your family members about this, that Savannah was coming? Was anybody acting weird? Was anybody watching too closely? What do you make of that, Chris? Do you think the FBI suspects that it's related to the visit to El Charro?
I think the FBI is doing what we've talked about from day one. They are trying to find a correlation to the house because there's such a low risk from Nancy. There's a high probability that the suspect has had contact with that house, meaning it could be, a friend of a friend, and because this is not a stranger who just showed up and said, you know what, now's the night, I'm going to take Nancy out of the house. Okay. No. She was when the sheriff says she's targeted, when the BAU says she's targeted, that's because everything in the victim risk continuum points to a higher probability that the victim and the suspect have had a cross of some sort, meaning their lives crossed. Okay. It could be the gardener, could be the pool guy, it could be the roof guy, could be the electrician. It could be anybody that had access into that home and go, there's an 84-year-old woman in here. Okay. This is not the hooker at the truck stop at 2:00 in the morning. Okay. That's going up to the doors and saying, hey, I'm here. Okay. That is a high risk. That is a stranger abduction when she disappears. Okay.
Right.
But in this situation, it's the complete opposite of that. So what are they trying to do? Well, they're trying to see if there's a nexus somewhere. Okay. Did this Instagram play a role? Did this visit to the restaurant from Savannah? Is there a correlation between the suspect and an obsession with Savannah Guthrie? Okay. Is this somebody who is, vicariously stalking Savannah through her mother? Okay. That's what they're trying to figure out in this situation. And I think the evidence, though, ultimately is going to respond to no. That is definitely a lane and a box you have to check. Okay. But the probability of that there's somebody inside of the restaurant that says, hey, I know for a fact on this date at this time that she's going to be home at 10 p.m. after getting dropped off by her son-in-law. Okay. And now's my time to get into that house, get her tonight. I've got 4 hours later. Tonight's the night I'm going to get in there and get her. Forget about all the other times I came by the house potentially. If that metadata comes back, those are, various times of visiting. Okay. The suspect's taking a risk by the timing of this whole thing that she's got to be in there. So maybe that leans towards, is he already in the house when she gets home at 10 o'clock at night?
Interesting.
Okay. Does the suspect, is he already laying in wait for her to come in that house? And this 41 minutes is actually wrong. It's much longer than that. Okay. But we have the only information we have is we have the sheriff saying she was taken out of her bed. Okay. Well, if he's lying in wait, is he waiting for her to go through her routine and get her into bed? Well, that's kind of weird, right? That would be very risky, for the suspect, because she could potentially call 911 and instantaneously the whole plane goes down, out through the window. So there's a higher probability that he's not in the house. But you have to keep that in play, right, from an investigative analysis aspect. And I know people go, well, you're just speculating. Well, that's what investigations is. That's exactly what an investigation is.
You have to come up with theories based on what you know.
You think about the possibilities, and then you ask, is it probable? And if the answer is no, well, then everybody has to do the same thing.
And
So
you
that's what they're doing. Go ahead.
eliminate it based on the evidence. Like what's, like you said, what's probable.
Right. And so they're going back to the restaurant, grilling the employees and saying, hey, I need to have you explain this to me. Okay. And I had a caper. It was a first degree murder. It was a slaughter. It was a manager of an El Torito restaurant. And there were two boys inside the restaurant. They were the janitors, the night janitors that had been locked in real fast. And they had both of their arms slashed by the suspect. Okay. Well, that story just wasn't lining up.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short, we put them in separate interview rooms. And I went into one of the interview rooms with my interpreter. His name is Ruben Sandoval. And I asked him, I said, hey, by the way, you said the suspect had a mask on. He says, yeah, we couldn't see who it was. And I said, oh, that's really weird because we have a bank camera right next door in the drive-thru that picked the guy up coming out without a mask. And the suspect looked at me and you could just see the deer in the headlights. And he goes, can I talk to my cousin? And I said, absolutely. And so I put the two of them into the same interview room. And within 30 seconds, he leans over and he goes, they saw Uncle Mauricio wasn't wearing a mask. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Boom. Jackpot. All cherries across the top. We got them. Okay. And lo and behold, we got them. So that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to press the environment to see if there's any pressure that's going to come back.
Mm-hmm. I do want to bring something up. Somebody just said, let's see, Timeless Hysteria said, Nancy's car was in the garage 2 days ago and someone left with it. Okay, so maybe Nancy's car has been returned. So Timeless Hysteria is saying her car was in the garage 2 days ago and someone left with it. I thought I saw something on Twitter about that. Someone thought that maybe her son was driving it.
The blue Subaru?
Yeah.
We're talking two cars, right?
Yeah, because like this CRV, the black CRV I had up earlier is, and we haven't confirmed that independently, guys, just so we're all clear here. That's just what JLR is saying on Twitter, that's Annie and Tommaso's car. But the blue Subaru, somebody is saying, is back at Nancy's house, was in the garage 2 days ago. Okay,
so then that's good. But then they're done. They've released it.
And then Jason here is saying they may also be asking the restaurant for old video footage to perhaps compare to the recent still images. FBI software can easily match and identify. Well,
that's a great point. Jason's awesome, by the way.
Yeah, that's very smart.
Smart guy.
I mean, I don't know what their retention period would be on video footage like that. But I don't know. I don't know how long some of these systems keep the footage, especially at a restaurant like that. That was November. If they were back this week, I mean, maybe this week isn't the first time they've gone to that restaurant. You would think they would have investigated this whole El Charro thing, and anywhere Savannah would have gone, prior to this week.
Well, and you see that the optimal word there is Savannah, and it should be Nancy, right? If Nancy was in there, that's why they're there. Okay, unless there's this secondary thought process that says, okay, we have an obsession problem here with, a John Lennon problem here. Okay, for lack of a better term, right? Where, this suspect is living vicariously through the mother. If I can't have you, Savannah, I'll have your mother instead. Okay, but again, that is very dangerous though, to think like that, because now you now have to ask yourself, okay, why is this individual obsessed in that direction? Because a lot of that obsession is, SA driven.
Yeah.
Okay. That's where you get into this real problematic thought process of this male, going after, Savannah through her mother vicariously. That I'm praying that is not the answer here. Okay. I really am, because if in fact that is the answer, we could have some very damaging problems inside of that house that this poor woman may have experienced. And I don't want to go out on that limb, not right now. because the fact that he took her out of the house, that is not in line with that type of behavior.
Jason says the FBI. Jason seems to really know what he's talking about. FBI can easily recover deleted footage from the restaurant.
Awesome.
That's awesome. Chris, do you think the clips that Kash Patel put out, the video clips and the ones we've shown here, do you believe that they have more than this and they just this is what they put out? Do you think they have more than these items that he tweeted out back in February?
I want to believe that they have much more. And I'm convinced that this case will be solved. That the problem, though, before it gets solved, is somebody needs to put the sheriff in the corral, okay, and keep him, on the horse with the ponies away from the arena in the rodeo. Because what he's doing is he is taking the public to a different level of fear. I mean, you said it early on your program, Angenette, and thank you, by the way, for inviting me today. I don't know if I thanked you enough, but
I really appreciate you coming on. Everybody, Chris's. I'm going to drop his channel in here.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I appreciate you very much, and if my folks, from my channel are here, make sure we subscribe as well. But this is, again, we go back to, why are we scaring the public like this? It should not be happening. And I've been critical, and I've also given the sheriff grace, and I got hit. I get hit from both sides of the coin. Well, one day you say he's nice, and the next day you say, he's bad. Well, yeah, that's human behavior, because sometimes we're good and sometimes we're bad. Okay. But if we watch again this video, think about the style concept that I just presented here tonight. Okay. Honestly, how many suspects who are intent on bringing a gun into an 84-year-old woman's house just gently walk up and, I think I gotta somehow break this camera.
So weird. It doesn't. Why is he not wearing black? I don't get it.
Well, not only that, but it's almost like, it's drama. It's almost like it's this, what is this? Oh gosh, it must be a camera.
Do you think it's staged potentially?
I'm not saying that yet. I'm saying there's just too much that, if a professional with a gun, number one, he wouldn't hold that gun like that. That's right out of the cartoons.
I mean, I don't even carry a gun, and I know to not hold a gun like that. It's so bizarre.
Yeah, and you know not to hold a gun like that. Everybody knows in the chat you don't hold a gun like that. Okay, so it's almost like, okay, well, what do I need? Well, I need a mask. Okay, well, what about my eyes? Hey, make sure you get the kind that draw attention to your eyes. You mean with the special stitching? Definitely. And what about my mouth? Well, you can get a mask that doesn't cover your mustache or at least the chin hair. Oh, that's a great idea. What kind of gloves should I get? Get the big kind. Get the big kind. Why? That way you can't put your finger in and use the gun. Oh, that's a great idea. I didn't want to use the gun anyway. Okay. What about a holster? Well, get a pistol holster, but I've got an automatic. That's okay. Stick that gun in there. It will still work. It could be a silencer on there. Let everybody speculate and determine whether or not, it's a reality. Okay. And then you get now to Act 2. How do I break the camera? I got an idea. I'll use twigs, brush.
It is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Nobody does this. Everybody, if you knew there was a camera here, and a lot of people have these cameras, why, and why, if he's got these gloves on, it looks I mean, just rip the thing off, like we said, instead of using plants to cover it up. Like, you've got gloves on, just twist it and rip it. Like, is it really that hard to do? And then, Chris, what's your opinion on this? We had my friend Mel on here a couple weeks ago, and he was out in Tucson, and he brought this to our attention. He thinks right there that that's a second person coming up, that light. If you see that light right there, I'm going to back it up. He thinks it's a second person. I'm going to play that and then pause. Boom. He thinks that's a second person with a second light coming into the frame, and that this was all like acting with the plants.
That's a very
reflection.
Go ahead. No, do that again. It could be the backside of the plant as well, reflection off of the light from the camera. And because remember, he's got the flashlight in his mouth, and so you're getting a reflection as well. And that could be a backside of the plant as well. And I'm not saying he's wrong personally.
Yeah.
Okay? I think it's a very interesting observation. Okay. But
he also thinks that, like, when he went to get the plants, that he let's pull up that one, that he turned to talk to somebody. And we were talking about this the last time. This might be the wrong clip. Hold on.
Yeah, no, when he bends down, as he stands up, you could tell he was looking off to his left.
Side.
Yeah. Well, when he walks up, you notice he's looking to the left, and he's looking through the side window of the door when he first walks up on the porch. So I thought a while ago that maybe there was potentially somebody inside that was opening the front door.
And maybe there was.
We don't know, right? But it certainly is a different thought process. But then this doesn't make sense. If there's some guy inside the building already with Nancy, then that individual has to be thinking about controlling the victim.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't think this is a one-person job. It very well could be.
I agree.
I think it's a two-person job.
I agree.
There he's looking. He kind of looks. I mean, I'm not saying he's like really good.
Right there. That's when he made the move. That's when he looked. As he come up, and you're going to see him turn to the left. Right there. See the light disappear from his mouth?
There he goes.
That's when he's looking. Right. Now, that could just be because it's 2:00 in the morning, and sound travels at 2:00 in the morning. That's why patrol officers are trained in the academy. Drive with your windows down in your patrol car. Because you're going to hear things, and you're going to see things that the public doesn't hear or see. Okay. And so he is at such maybe a heightened sense of awareness here that, he's looking out to see, or maybe there is somebody back over there. I agree with you. It took more than one person to get her out of that house. And then because you have to now get her in the car, and she's already injured and bleeding, because you have evidence of that at the porch. Okay? So that means there has to be a vehicle out there somewhere. Where's that vehicle parked? Is it alongside the garage? Is it out on the main street? Is it in front where the railing is? We don't see it there. Do they control her inside the house? And then the other guy says to suspect number 2, hey, go get the car, pull it around. Well, that's a risk, because if that suspect gets in that car at any time and turns those lights on, and that neighborhood is used to the neighbors going, I got up at 2 a.m. to pour a cup of water, or a glass of water, and I looked out my window and I saw these headlights come on over there. Okay, that's a risk that the suspect does not want to take. Okay, so are they operating this vehicle at night? Because at some point they got her out of there. Or is she nearby? Her demise was inside of the house, and they got her out of there, and she's nearby, unfortunately, as a hypothesis. That's always a possibility. I hate to say it, but it's a possibility.
I just don't understand. The back door could have been an entry point for one of them. The front door, bring her out the front door. I saw somebody speculating the other night that she was actually taken out the back door, but that doesn't make any sense because we have the blood evidence at the front door on the porch. So I don't know. It's like, where would you have carried her out the front door, not had her walk? Would you have walked her out at gunpoint? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where all the tarp information came from, and they brought her out with a tarp, and I don't know where that came from. But
where would had like, what else would he have had in his back? Like, why do you bring a full backpack to unless you've got stuff in there to look at that? That's a pretty full backpack, right?
And so you're not there for a burglary. You're not filling your backpack up with stuff that you can't already get more stuff into.
Unless this is after the fact. We don't have the timestamp on this.
Again, that's a great point. But at some point, right? I think this is not I think it's complicated right now because they haven't captured the suspect. I get that piece of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. But this guy, in my experience, as well as others, and by the way, here's my Oprah Winfrey cup.
I actually saw the Oprah Winfrey show in person once. It was
really?
Last year. Yeah, it was her last year of the show. Yeah. I was still working in Wisconsin.
I got a cup for being a guest.
Cool, Oprah. Wow,
that is
cool. Like. My sister, I called my sister and I was like, hey, because I worked at a CBS station in Wisconsin, and I could just drive to Milwaukee and get on the train and be in Chicago.
Yeah, cool.
So it's pretty cool, right? And so I said to my sister and my friend Cynthia, who lived in Wisconsin, my friend Cynthia loved Oprah, and so did my sister, and I like Oprah too. And I said, hey guys, I can get free tickets, or not free, but it was her last year. So they were in demand. They were always free. But I said, hey guys, because we air Oprah, I can get tickets more easily. So do you want to go? I literally called my sister and I said, she lives in Atlanta. I said, do you want to go see Oprah on this date? And she said, I'm there.
Yep.
So
awesome.
We all went and saw Oprah. We had to be there at like the crack of dawn or something. It was ridiculous, but it was cool. We got to see Oprah in person, like the show being filmed. So it was fun. I'm sure being on Oprah was cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was cool. Yeah. I mean, they hand you a card and here's what she's going to ask you. And that, as you know, in between, cuts, they pull you out of the audience and they sit you up on the stage and do your thing. And when it's done, they pull you off and put the next guest on.
Yeah.
It was awesome. But this guy here, if we think about this guy, I mean, just look, I love this particular shot that you have up right here, Angenette, because this is the suspect's personality.
Yeah. I call him Mustache. That's my name for him.
Okay. This is Mustache's personality. But look at how he is, the accent around his eyes, where you can see his eyebrows, and around his mouth. Why is he not conscientious to cover those features?
Why didn't he shave his mustache?
That's the point. That is exactly the point.
Like
right. And that's where you now start thinking about, okay, wait a minute. Why is this guy showing his eyebrows? And then he's got this stitching, okay, around the mask here. And within a first couple of days this ever came out, everybody in the universe said, oh, I'm going to find that mask. Okay. I'm going to find that mask.
I think I found it. Did I tell you that?
I think you did. It was like a specialty mask or something at a Walmart, or where was it?
Walmart.com. I don't think it is a Walmart made mask, but I'm pretty sure I found it on Walmart.com. Maybe it's not on this laptop. I have two laptops, but I'm pretty sure I found it, and it comes in many different colors. I'll just drop it over here. It's I was looking one night, we were on here live, and I was like, I'm gonna look on Walmart, because I was like, I think we have a Walmart kidnapper here, I started looking because it reminds me of this case I covered in Ohio, the Pike County murders, where 8 people were murdered in one night. And one of the big pieces of evidence, the mom went to Walmart and bought her sons these like Velcro sneakers to wear to commit the murders.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the main pieces of a big piece of evidence. The shoe print lady at the crime lab, the shoe impression lady, she couldn't find the shoe. There was one shoe print in blood, like part of a shoe print in blood. She couldn't find it anywhere. She literally goes to Walmart to look for it, and she finds the shoe print. She gets the model of the shoe. The cops get receipts or whatever for that shoe from like 100-mile radius, and they get video of this woman buying the shoes.
Wow,
from
cool.
Walmart.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was like, Walmart kidnapper. But
you know who this guy is? This guy is used to looking in the mirror.
Oh, he likes himself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, his eyebrows look pretty clean, like cleaned up for a man.
This guy is used to being tidy, meticulous, narcissistic, vain. Look how he approaches the camera. When he comes to the porch, everything is about how he looks. He looks down. Now, we may project that and say, well, he doesn't want to be identified. Yes, that's a piece of the puzzle. Okay. But more importantly, okay, when he gets up to the camera like this, okay, everything is pristine here. The clothes, the bag, the shoes, the gun holster, the type of gun, which is kind of an oddity, okay? So it's like this guy is playing a role. Okay, what does a burglar look like? Okay. How am I to be a good burglar in this thing?
Well, I think this is a bad burglar because he's wearing like a fleece and jeans.
Right, because we know what a good burglar is. And it's not this guy. That's what I'm saying. This is like a secondary role for this guy. Okay. It's like, okay, if I got to do this, I got to be a burglar. Okay. Well, what does a burglar look like? All right. Well, I got to get a mask, and they got to do some Google searches, go ogle, right? Google, go ogle. And so I got to go ogle, got to find out what a burglar looks like. I'm going to, pull images up. I'm going to ask Grok. I'm going to ask Chat GPT. What's a good burglar look like? Okay. But then they get this answer, and it's like, well, I don't like that mask. I like this one. It's a little more stylish for me. Okay. How about what kind of gloves should I wear? Well, these are the kind of gloves. Okay. Well, okay. Yeah. I can grab some of those gloves. Well, what kind of jacket should I get? Okay. And the list just goes on. But the suspect is choosing this clothing conscientiously, unlike Brian Koberger, who decided to get a jumpsuit, okay, and a mask. And this guy goes in to slaughter 4 people. Okay. And by the golly, you're not going to find any blood evidence in his car because he's that meticulous. This guy is meticulous as well, but his meticulous or his personality is one of vanity. It is a how do I look here? And you see it come out really clearly when he walks up. Play the video again where he's putting his head down as he's walking in, but then he raises it high, okay, which is a projection of confidence. And anybody and all the people that have analyzed this, the first thing that even Mary Ellen O'Toole said from the BAU was this guy is very confident. You see his head's down, but watch when he looks up. Okay. The one that, do you have the other one that where he keeps moving forward?
This one?
That's okay. Yeah. No, when he first, okay, stop. Whoop.
Oh.
That's all right. Go back. Okay, stop. Whoop. Almost. What's he doing? He's looking through the window. And guess what he's seeing? He's seeing his reflection. That's what he's seeing.
So he likes himself some him.
Well, he's not worried. This guy's not worried. It's almost like, okay, is this what burglars do? Okay. Back up for a second. You'll see when he comes up, his head's off to the side. Okay. Whoops. Stop right there. Look at his eyes. Okay. There's light coming on. There's a light source coming into his eyes of some sort because you can see them glowing. That could be from the camera. I don't know where that light source is coming from, but look at him. You can see more of his beard here in this particular shot than you can the other one. Why are you not covering that?
It's weird.
I can't wait till they get this guy in the room and play these videos back, because that's what I would do. And if he's watching tonight, dude, I'm telling you, you're going to get caught. You're an amateur. You're going to get caught. It's coming. Put your seatbelt on.
Like this thing. I'm like, what is that? Just rip the thing off. You already were like this.
Well, that's what burglars do, Angenette. Come on.
But if you had your head down, knowing you had your head down because you either knew or suspected there was a camera, then why are you doing this? Rip the thing off if you're such a tough guy.
Well, at some point the camera disappears. So here's my question. Did he break it? And if he did he cut himself? And that's the mixed DNA that the sheriff is trying to separate.
Interesting. That's a good point. Interesting. Well, I really appreciate your time tonight, Chris. They still, to our knowledge, have not identified this perp. If they had, we think that they would have done something so far, unless they just don't have the evidence to make an arrest, which is possible. I don't know, but they think that the sheriff is telling people they think he thinks this is targeted. They think they know why he did it, but they don't know that. But lock up your children and your wives and get a security camera that works, and do not sleep with your windows open, even though it's beautiful in Tucson. Don't do it. So word salad. I get it. You're a cop. I mean, yeah, you shouldn't sleep with your windows open, even if you like to. We get that. But he's saying people could still be in danger. So he's not inspiring confidence. He doesn't inspire confidence in me. I'm scared, and I don't even live there. I'm scared. I'm worried for the people of Tucson. I hope if anybody from Tucson is watching tonight that they are locking their doors, and that they do have a good camera system, and that they are locking their windows and things of that nature. I just hope that's happening, because if something happens, I'm not sure it can be solved. Nobody's expecting magic here. Things can take time. But
yeah,
he's not inspiring confidence, and a lot of confidence with me. I'm not feeling confident.
Yeah, and those are great points for the community, Angenette. And I would just, add and thank you so much for inviting me here this evening. That, don't be afraid. Fear is the opposite of faith. Okay,
Knowledge is power.
knowledge is power. Uh, grasp that fear, use it to your advantage, whatever that means. Okay, and be, just stay ahead. Just stay ahead internally. Of lock your doors at night, but just get into that routine anyway. And check your doors when you get to your car. Look in your back seat. Do those kind of things that you should do. And I will speak to your audience because the majority of my audience is female. When you walk to your car, carry your car keys, in your hand with one key out, as if you had to hit something. You have a key and you have a weapon in your hand. Mm-hmm. Don't touch anything that is on your car doors, on your windshield, like notes or, clips or anything like that. The individuals can put, drugs on those, type of items today, and they could be, potentially problematic. If in doubt, follow your gut, turn around, go back into the store and ask somebody to escort you out. There's nothing wrong with that in today's world. So empower yourself. Don't be afraid. Don't let the sheriff, scare you in Tucson. You have the ability. You know what's going on. And just like Angenette said, power is knowledge, and continue to do that for yourself, and you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. We have one more question for you. I think that's good advice.
Okay.
Always put your keys in between your fingers in case you need to use them as a weapon. Chris, what do you think about the waiters being brothers and they don't really know who the cook is that paid them?
So that's a great question. Okay. If in fact that is the totality of this thing, the two guys, what he means by that, the cook behind the house and the two guys out at the house, not physically behind the house, but off into the distance, and the two guys at the house pulling this off. Two things. Number one, they were successful at getting her out of the house. So they delivered. And now that could be detrimental to if it's a conspiracy to commit, kidnapping, or if it's a conspiracy to commit homicide. Okay, that's a very serious incident. And as a result of that, you will typically start to see, if the allegiances start to break, the weakest link will take the deal first. And that individual will roll on everybody else, and you'll see a cascading effect take place. And one day we'll be watching a press conference where the sheriff stands up and he says, I need to show you A, B, C, and D, in conjunction with the FBI, who's made the connection. And if it's a situation that's gone, potentially from Mexico or back, to Angenette's point earlier, that's when the FBI says, this is ours. Mm-hmm. It's cross borders. It belongs to us. Sorry, Sheriff. You can go clean the dishes in the kitchen.
Yeah, it's, we'll see. I don't think that we can rule out something happening across the border. We just can't rule it out because we don't know. Also, the reward is now more than $1 million, well over $1 million, $1.3 million, I now believe. So have there been any fruitful tips that have come of that? We don't know. But that to me is terrifying. If Savannah Guthrie was like, I will give you $1 million, and I know my mom might not be alive, I just want her back. I will give you $1 million, up to $1 million. And nobody's come forward. That's terrifying to me. That's some cold-blooded people out there.
Yeah. And let's keep Savannah and her family in our prayers still.
Yes, definitely. I feel very badly for her and her family. Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I will talk to you very soon. Everybody subscribe to Chris's channel, The Interview Room. He's fantastic. He has great panels, lots of pros on there. And we will see you again soon, Chris. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you. Aloha.
Bye. It's been great hanging out with you tonight. Again, please keep Savannah Guthrie and her family in your prayers. Again, that number is 1-800-CALL-FBI. If anybody has any information that could help catch this guy, I call him Mustache. You know, they really need to know who did this and help bring their mom home. So please, everybody, have a great evening, and please take care of one another. Be kind to one another. Also, I want to shout out the mods. Thanks so much to the mods for being here tonight. I could not do this without them. They are wonderful. Sirius Black is here. Monty is here. Mel Mack is here. Monana and Eric Evans is here. So thank you so much to all of you and everybody for watching. I'd love it if you would please subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a live or a video. Also hit that thumbs up. Everybody have a great evening. I will see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.